Today on Real Talk, we have a special show. This show going to deal with what we've been talking about for a long time. We heard our general manager, Sister Janelle Shagwell, talk about black radio, and black radio is very important in this day and age, and in the communities, especially with a lot of corporations taking over a lot of the media outlets. And today we will be featuring Brother Bob Law. Bob Law is a radio pioneer as it relates to talk radio. He basically started out in New York and in other markets around the country, and we'll be speaking to him via telephone today from New York. Brother Davis, whenever he calls in, I think he should be calling in soon. I have some great news to announce. You know, this show has always been about getting solutions and offering information for people to get involved. Well, you know, we've been talking about the high incarceration rate. We've been talking about the war on drugs. These catchphrases are permeated through the black community, and a lot of information has been talked about in the media concerning the mass incarceration and the so-called war on drugs. Well, you know, there was a coalition put together by Dr. Boyce Watkins, who is a noted writer and a noted expert on issues in the community. We have our general manager, Sister Janelle Shagwell. I'm pretty sure she would enjoy the great Bob Law. He basically had some good information. Go ahead, Brother Bob. Introduce yourself to the South Louisiana listening audience.
Hello, can you hear me? All right.
Great, Brother Bob Law. Thank you for being on the show. We have our general manager in studio. She'll be listening in, and hopefully you could offer up some good information on what you've been doing as it relates to black media.
Well, I'm having a little bit of difficulty hearing you, kind of like you're in the background, but I'm hearing you though. But as I was saying though, good morning. I'm glad to be with you.
Yes, good morning. Just a slight delay. We have some little technical situations we have to iron out, but we're going to definitely pick you up and get you out there to the South Louisiana. Welcome to the Lafayette, Louisiana listening audience. We definitely want to hear with bated breath about what you've been doing concerning black media and black economics.
Well, maybe we can begin here. Let's begin at the end of the story. Black media, particularly black radio, is going out of business. Black radio stations are going out of business almost on a monthly, not almost, but on a monthly basis, almost on a weekly basis. We're losing black radio particularly. Now, keep in mind, two of the most influential institutions in the black community have been the black church and black radio. Those are the institutions that have historically had the greatest reach, influence, and level of trust in the black community. And so they have a great deal of power and leverage. And so it is not an accident, perhaps, that those are two institutions that are under attack. Now, black radio stations are going out of business, simply put, because they can't pay their bills. They can't pay their bills, so they're being forced into foreclosure. They are being gobbled up by giant conglomerates because it's so difficult to maintain the black radio station financially. So it is because they can't pay their bills, they can't generate enough money. Now, one of the reasons, not one of, but the reason they can't pay their bills, the reason they don't have money is because black radio stations do not get paid what they deserve. Black radio stations do not get paid what they have earned based on how well they perform. So even though the black radio station has strong listeners, has loyal listeners, even though the black radio station is the most efficient media buy in the advertising industry, it takes you directly to a clearly defined target market that is spending more money than anybody else in the country. Even though black radio is a powerful and significant vehicle, the ratings company tells the ad industry that nobody is listening to black radio stations. And in New York State, the Attorney General of New York State, who is now the governor, Andrew Cuomo, when he was Attorney General, he sued Arbitron, the ratings company. And he was able to prove in court in his language, that the ratings company was knowingly and willfully giving out incorrect information that was causing the financial decline of black radio. That was about 4 or 5 years ago. Last year, the Attorney General of California brought the same lawsuit and won, proving in court that the ratings company was in violation of civil rights laws, that they were engaged in a discriminatory process, and that they are giving out wrong information that is causing the financial demise of black radio. And in each case, the ratings company moved to settle out of court rather than pay back all of the money that they have actually cost black radio stations, pay back the money that they have actually deprived black radio stations of. So it is not from mismanagement, it's not from the wrong format, it's not from any of the things, it's not from the bad economy. It is black radio stations are struggling to survive because of policy, what appears to be a kind of collusion between the ad industry and the ratings company, which denies the black radio station the numbers that they are actually entitled to. But now, the reason that they get away with it is because black radio won't take this message to their audience. So the audience doesn't know that they are not being counted. The audience doesn't know that their dollars are being taken for granted. You see, the reason that the ad industry or the manufacturers or the big companies don't advertise on black radio is because they can count on black consumer dollars whether they ask for them or not. If you want to get black dollars, just pretend you don't want them. What would happen if a major store in your city there was a rumor out, or even if they had a sign in the window, or did somebody leak out the story that this particular store doesn't want black people shopping there? Black people don't become offended and say, well, fine, we'll keep our money. Black people say, no, you must take our money. We insist. You remember when Oprah was locked out of a department store in Paris? Now, the department store had closed. It wasn't that they were discriminating against Oprah. They had closed for the day. Oprah got there too late. The store was closed. And so the people with Oprah said, well, this is Oprah. And you know how much money Oprah has. This is Oprah. We expect that you will open the store. And the managers of the store refused to open it. Well, that story got back to black folk in America. They were calling talk shows. They were emailing and Facebooking and texting and outraged. Black people were outraged that this store in Paris would not open its doors after hours to take Oprah's money. So we insist that the store reopen and let Oprah give you some money. We insist that they open their doors so that they could take Oprah's money. We are committed to inclusion at all costs. And so our inappropriate behavior is what causes us or causes the corporations to deny black media and allow, because they can count on black consumer dollars no matter what they do, no matter how they treat us. They don't have to advertise on black radio. They don't have to advertise on in black print media. They don't have to use black ad agencies or do anything in the black community because they can take the black consumer dollar for granted. There's the most recent study that was conducted by the Felix Center, which is in Georgia, at the University of Georgia. And the study says that despite the severe impact of the Great Recession, black economic clout, as they call it, what they mean is, despite the severe impact of the Great Recession, black spending continues to energize the U.S. consumer market. The Felix Center estimates that the nation's black spending power will continue its dramatic rise. from $316 billion in 1990 to $1,307 billion, from $1 trillion to $38 billion in 2012. We're spending over $1 trillion a year, and that $1 trillion is being taken for granted by every community in this country, from the corporate community to other ethnic communities who set up shops in black communities. Black spending, in spite of the severe impact of the Great Recession, black spending continues to enrich every community except the black community. And so what we're looking at is that the campaign that we have launched is the $1 Million Black Spending Power campaign, which calls on black people to take control of our own spending. We must go to these corporations and make them reinvest in the black community. If Nike acknowledges that young black men are the driving force behind their success, Nike acknowledges that. But they say that it's not only that young black men buy sneakers, but that they also are trendsetters. And they are global trendsetters. They influence sales all over the globe. There are other products that black people are the driving force behind. What would happen to Revlon if black women just stopped buying Revlon for 90 days? What would happen to Revlon? So Revlon and other corporations are taking the black consumer dollar on their own terms. They don't reinvest in the community on our terms. See, we need to be able to say to them, this is the black media of our choice. We want to hear some commercials on the radio station that we love. We want to see some ads in the magazine or the newspaper that we relate to, that we love. We want you to come back into this community on our terms. But since we don't do that, they are able to take our dollars for granted. So we must go to those corporations and renegotiate our relationship with them, our financial relationship with them. But we believe that where we should start is with black folk taking control of our own spending first. See, they say that black spending has become more focused and more targeted in these difficult times. That's not true at all. Black spending is all over the place. Black spending is the least focused spending in the country. We spend it on everything, everywhere. We're trying to support every single ethnic group. We're trying to support every single product. We're not focused or targeted at all. And as a result, the money that we spend does not translate into any leverage for us. See, the amount of money that we spend ought to allow us to influence policy. You know how the lobbyists, and look at the NRA. The NRA is able to influence policymakers in Washington because of all the money they spend with them. They buy them. They buy politicians. They buy senators and they buy congresspeople. They buy politicians. Their money is used to influence policy. They don't just want to get somebody elected because they like them. They want to influence policy. Well, with the money that we spend more money than the lobbyists do. And so we ought to be able to influence policy based on our economic leverage. And that's what this campaign sets out to do first. Take control of our own spending. And see, ultimately, and so what we're doing is we're asking black people as step one, just step one, because there are a number of things that we also will do. But where we're going ultimately is back to the corporate America, going back to corporate America, pointing out that corporate America has got to begin to truly respect the black dollar and come back to the black community on our terms. One of the things we want to see them do is spend money in black-owned media. Spend money in black media, starting with black-owned media. But we are in a position to leverage that with them if we are able to say that we are controlling and targeting our spending. If you want to continue to get these black consumer dollars, then there are some things that you need to do to help stabilize the black community. You do that, we will continue to spend. But if you don't spend with us, if you don't spend on our terms, then it is only intelligent for black people to redirect our spending. Find out where you can look, find out what corporations are willing to develop a meaningful relationship with the black community, and we continue to spend there. And those corporations who insist on taking us for granted and not put anything back in the black community, then we have to redirect our spending. But by taking control of our own dollars first, we are asking people to begin to put those dollars back into the black community. First, black people, put our dollars back into the black community. So we're saying to black people, would you be willing to make a commitment to spend $20 a week in a black-owned business? If you would spend $20 a week in a black-owned business, that would turn, in many, many cities, that will turn at least $20 a week in a black-owned business. Because that would turn, in many cities, that would turn $1 million a week back into the black community. Instead of trying to impress people with how much money we are willing to spend, what if we demonstrate to people our ability to hold on to our money? What if we demonstrate an ability to actually redirect our money and spend our money strategically? We begin to build a support base for black businesses. Those black businesses will begin to hire more people in the community. Those black businesses can begin to support black media, for instance. But you see, currently, small black businesses cannot afford to spend any money anywhere. They can't afford to advertise. They don't make enough money. Black folk are spending millions and billions by category, but we're not spending any of it with each other. We're spending on apparel products and services. We spend $26.9 billion. On alcoholic beverages, we spend $2.8 billion annually. On soda, non-alcoholic beverages, we spend $3.1 billion annually. You know, we're spending money. We're buying consumer electronics at the tune of $4.5 billion a year. We're spending money. We spend $65.3 billion on food. That makes sense. However, how much of that money is spent in a black grocery store? You know, we're spending $63.5 billion on food. And how many of those major supermarket chains where we are spending money, how many of them are advertising on the black radio station that you say you love? How many of them are spending money in the black newspaper that you say is important to you, that you say is your media of choice? They can take our dollars for granted, and as a result, they are able to manipulate the entire process to the point where black spending doesn't represent any real power. And so this campaign sets out to turn black spending into real power.
Yes, my brother, definitely. We could listen to you all day long. You certainly have a wealth of information that is pertinent to what we do here in South Louisiana, especially this radio station, which is a wholly owned African-American radio station KJCB 770 AM. Again, we're listening to media activist, if I could call you that, Brother Bob Law, media activist Bob Law. He's basically given us information on the state and the plight of black media today, especially as it relates to black radio. Brother Bob, I want to segue into this conversation. How has what we call the so-called new media, the internet, streaming technologies, and other endeavors, has it hurt or helped situations such as black radio? Because a lot of people would argue that, well, the internet is the great equalizer. I say that from time to time, but after listening to your information, it goes back to the point that who controls the pipeline, whether it's the antennas, whether it's the satellite dish, whether it's the internet wires that come into the home. They control all of the information and commerce that goes out on these conduits.
See, the internet is not a replacement for commercial media. Black people are being urged to give up on commercial media, give up on owning radio stations. You would be told that we might as well give up KJCB, give up 770 AM, and go on the internet instead. However, the major corporations, the conglomerates, since the 1990 Telecommunications Act, the major corporations, Disney, Viacom, Clear Channel, they have been buying up AM and FM radio stations all over the country. Clear Channel owns 1,200 radio stations. That is not because radio is becoming obsolete. That is because radio is still the primary platform from which to deliver your message. It is where all people really are. The internet is an add-on. It is in addition to, but it is by no means, and people have some difficulty with this, but it is by no means the great equalizer. To be on the internet, and people point out that the internet is global, and people can hear your message all over the world, but that's not really true. The internet is all over the world because it is the internet, but people in Mozambique, people in Ghana, people in India don't even know your program exists. They don't know what time to tune in to hear your show. Your internet program is on 1 hour a week, or 2 or 3 hours a week, or 1 day a week. People don't. You can be heard in countries all over the world, but there's no mechanism that is promoting your show or driving audience to your show in those other parts of the world. However, one of the things that you want to do, to understand, is that when you have a radio station, you want to get information out, but it is also a commercial business. You want it to be prosperous. You want it to be successful. You want to be able to get, Disney makes so much money because they sell their product. They don't just put movies out and show them all over the world for free. They don't just do radio for free. They sell commercials. They own sports stations. They own music stations. They own stations for children. They sell commercials on those stations. We are being encouraged to get on the internet, for instance, to get on the blog, for instance, because that way your message can be heard. But it doesn't translate into your company generating any income, so that it is still commercial radio, where most people are in their car, in their office, in their home. There are people who are dedicated listeners who love some of these talk shows, who love some of the personalities on the talk show, so they will go home and go to their computer and bring the show up online. There are people definitely who will do that. But the great majority of people in any city are listening to the radio, listening to commercial radio. That is where, not only is that where you get your message out most effectively, but that's where you get your message out locally where you are. So that if, the two things, when the people were mobilized around Jenna, Louisiana, and y'all were part of that, when you talk to people about going to Jenna, Louisiana, the people who are going to respond, you're talking to people in your city. You're talking to people where you are, organizing them, get on buses, get in cars, and go to Jenna, Louisiana. It was not very likely that people who were hearing you in Ghana and in China and in India, they were not going to respond to your call to all of us come to Jenna, Louisiana. Now, they will hear your message about the injustice in Jenna, Louisiana. But when you call for some kind of political or economic action, it is only the people who are right there in your market who are able to respond to your call. And so local radio and even national radio, as we raise some national issues, that is valuable. But still, the internet, what is called alternate radio or alternate media, all of that is valuable as an add-on to what already exists, not as a substitute for. You can't give up 770 AM and say we're going to give up 770 AM and we're going to go to the internet instead. Friends, another thing that's happening is that the Obama administration, well, not the Obama administration, the FCC is currently awarding FM broadcast license to Indian tribes. And they're not little low-power FM. They're awarding 50,000-watt FM broadcast licenses to Indian tribes because they are concerned about diversity and ownership. At the same time, they are allowing unscrupulous business practices to push black radio into foreclosure and out of business. There's no concern there for diversity of ownership. But the reason that they're giving away, and the reason these Indian tribes are snapping up these radio stations, is as opposed to just trying to get on the internet or do blog radio, is that everybody in the country, everybody in the world still understands the great power and influence of commercial media. And so it is not like it would be inappropriate to abandon radio, television for alternative media. We need to add alternative media to the catalog of properties that we already own.
Great information, Brother Bob. As it relates to what's going on in your coalition that you put together concerning the historical station that I used to listen to via the internet, WLIB and those stations with inner city broadcasting, how has that affected the listeners? Because there's a lot of strong brothers and sisters, much like ourselves, who are conscious in the plight of what's going on in our communities. How has that affected the people in New York City and those areas where those stations were once on the air?
Oh, those stations, LIB was owned by Inner City Broadcasting, and WLIB, WBLS, black formatted stations. They were black stations, and they have been forced, the black-owned company has been forced out of business and forced into foreclosure. The stations are on the air, but they are making adjustments and cutting back on the amount of talk, news, information. They were only allowing them to do any news talk on the weekends, or not even on the weekends, on one day, on Sunday. And there was just one show called Open Line, in fact, that was on very early Sunday morning. And then there's a music show, Old Evenings, who is doing talk on both BLS and LIV. So they have now begun to cut back and reduce those shows. At one point, the show was 2 hours on Sunday morning. Now it's down to 1 hour on Sunday morning. And they're going to remove all of them. Councilman Charles Barron and I, and two other people, Michael North and a sister named Betty Dobson, who has an organization called the Committee to Eliminate Media Offensive to African People, we filed with the FCC to block the transfer of the broadcast license from Inner City to the new group that is fronting off Magic Johnson. He's one of the owners. He must own about 2% or something, but he's in the mix in order to make it appear that it's not just a white takeover. That's one of the things that, Magic rents his smile and his face is on the front of things that have a need for some social acceptance. And so Magic allows himself to be used in that way. But that we moved to block the transfer of the broadcast license because we are concerned about the loss of a black format in New York City. And so the broadcast license has still not been issued to the new company. But if the FCC, we're arguing the same thing that the FCC argued about Indian tribes. We have a concern for diversity of ownership. And this gives some black folk an opportunity to buy that station. Let's put some guarantees in that are going to protect the interest of the black community in New York City. New York City is the largest black community of any city in the country. And it is on the verge of having absolutely no formatted black radio station in New York City. The other black-owned radio station in New York City the real legacy station, the real historical station, the station that really paved the way, WWRL. That station has long since been marginalized, and it's black owned, but it doesn't have a presence at all in the black community. They sell all of the time is being brokered time with people selling. It's a whole series of infomercials, one infomercial after another, and very few, if any, of the people who are selling vitamins and nutrients are black people. It's almost all whites who are now using that station as a platform for their infomercials. And so black radio, the black community in New York City is on the verge of losing black radio stations altogether. And one of the reasons that happens is that black radio, one of the mistakes that black radio makes is that black radio gives up its blackness. And it goes from being a black station to an urban station. And black people are the only people in the country that actually are trying to practice multiculturalism and diversity. Only black people are trying to practice that. Everybody uses the term. And everybody talks about multiculturalism, diversity, all of that. People of color, they won't say black, they say people of color. They won't say black, they say multicultural. They say minority. Even where black people are in the majority, they are called a minority. In Detroit, they have a minority set-aside program, and the minority set-aside programs are for black people, where black people are the majority population in Detroit. We're the only people who practice. We won't say black. So, as a result, the interest of black people is being marginalized. And so if you look at other ethnic groups, you will find that if they set up a business in a black community, they don't hire young people from the community. They hire their own young people. They don't practice multiculturalism. They hire their own young people. Anybody who has a company, has a business, whatever the ethnic group is, some of them now are buying chain stores. They're buying into franchises, rather. They own Dunkin' Donuts and Subway sandwich shops. And as you go into those franchises, you're finding that it's the same ethnic group that owns a lot of those businesses, but they're hiring their own children. They're hiring. Look, you walk in there and you get the sense that it's a family-owned business because everybody looks the same. Everybody is the same ethnic group. There's nobody practicing multiculturalism but us. And as a result of this whole reluctance to say black, the reluctance to be black, as a result, other people are coming in, marginalizing the interest of black folk, and taking control of our spending in particular, so that it is very important, I believe, that we begin to bring back black. It is very important that we begin to make some demands as black people, and it's important that we stop apologizing for being black. And so I think that this campaign that calls on black people to take control of their own spending, this is really an important campaign on two levels. One, obviously, on a financial level. It'll start turning money back into the black community. You start to put some money back into the black community, then you can begin to have conversations with black businesses about how they can reinvest in the community. But they can't do it now because we don't spend nearly enough money with them. We can then begin to talk about advertisers spending money on black-owned media. If black people were to make some demands on the businesses where they currently spend money, if people who are listening to 770 AM were to take control of their spending and make some demands on the places where they currently shop, saying that we're spending money with you, but we don't hear your commercials on our radio station. We want you to at least ask us for our money. We want to hear you spend the money with the station that we want you to spend it with. See, that gives that gives you some leverage. That's turning black spending into power. Currently, black spending does not represent power at all. And then the second level is that this campaign challenges the psychological irons that hold us down. It breaks the chains that entrap us on a psychological and a mental level, because it is very, very difficult as a result of our conditioning. It is very difficult for black people to support each other. If you say spend money with a black business, the first thing black people, there are people who are listening right now, as they hear me say spend money with a black business, spend $20 in a black-owned business. There are people listening right now who, when they hear that, they say, I ain't spending no money with no black business. The black business food is the prices are too high. The food is too salty. There's somebody that lost my pants in the cleaners. If he wants us to spend money with them, but what are they going to do for us? All questions that you have never raised with anybody else that you spend your money with. You're going into places, and see, black people thoroughly enjoy going into places where deep in your heart you think they don't want you. If you think they don't want you, then you are delighted to go into those places and show them how much money you can spend as you try to earn inclusion. You want to be included. And so you achieve that emotional gratification by going into places where you think they really don't want us in here. That's why I'm in here. Show them how much money I have. If I can spend $200, take 4 people to dinner and spend $200 in a white-owned restaurant, I love it. But if I go to this and take the same 4 people to dinner and spend $200 in a black-owned restaurant, see, I don't get any emotional gratification out of that. I'm not impressing anybody. I'm not showing any white folk that I deserve to be included. And so there's a lot of emotional baggage that we have got to put down. And this campaign is very much a part of that struggle against the psychological bondage that entraps us and engages us in inappropriate behavior. So it is an important struggle on 2 levels. Now, there's one thing that people can do that can help us with this all over the country. We have a website, and if you go to the website is buyblackallyearlong.com. Buyblackallyearlong.com. There's information on there about the campaign. There's information from other people who are doing the same kind of things. Maggie Anderson has got some information on there, tips on how to buy black. Maggie Anderson is the woman you might remember who she and her family made a commitment to only purchase from black businesses for 1 year. And they went all over looking for black businesses, cleaners, grocery stores, everything, in order to only purchase from black businesses for 1 year. And found out that it might be hard because there are a lot of places where black people spend so little money with each other that there are very few black-owned businesses. But they were able to do it. But she has information there on our website as well. But there's a link on the website that you can just click on and pledge to spend $20 a week in a black-owned business. You just go to that website and pledge. Make the commitment in your own heart, and when you make the commitment in your heart that is what you're going to do, let us know that you are going to do that by clicking on that link on the website and pledging to spend $20 a week in a black-owned business. As we get thousands of people pledging, we're able to take that information, take those pledges, take that information to black-owned businesses, for instance, and say, look here's like 2,000 people in your city who have pledged to spend $20 a week in a black-owned business. So you better spruce up your business, clean up your business, make everything as clean and as excellent as it can be. Spend a little bit of money with black radio, maybe spend a little bit of money on 770 AM, and let the community know that your business exists, because you've got a couple of thousand people here who have pledged to spend $20 a week in a black-owned business. They just need to know that you exist. And so and we can do the same thing around the country. If we can do it on a national level, we're able to go to these corporations and say, here's the number of people who have committed to spend their money in black-owned businesses, which shows you that black people are willing to start to redirect their money. And the only way that you're going to be able to continue to get some of this money is if you renegotiate your relationship with the black community. But we need to be able to show black and white businesses that black people are listening and are willing to make that commitment. And then there's an app that when you talk about alternative media, see the way the alternative media works along with what we have, there's an app called Around the Way. And if you're looking for a black business in any city, and you can download the app for free, and it's called Around the Way. It's called Around the Way. It is a listing of black-owned businesses all over the country. And if you have a black-owned business and you're not on that Around the Way app, you can add your business yourself to that app on your phone. So if you're looking for, I saw some people yesterday leaving a memorial for a prominent judge in Harlem, and as they were leaving, somebody said, well, where is there some restaurants? We want to go eat. We want to go to a restaurant. I said, check out the Around the Way app. There are plenty of restaurants in this area, in this community. Just go to the Around the Way app, and you can find even a black-owned restaurant. And they found a black-owned restaurant called Spoonbread that a former model, Norma Jean Dart, has done a book, a cookbook. She and her sister did a cookbook called Spoonbread and something, Spoonbread and Wine. Spoonbread being a recipe from one of her family recipes. And they found her restaurant. And it turned out that her restaurant was on the same street right around the corner. And so, that's how you use alternative media along with existing media. But if we could get people to do that, if we could get people to make that commitment, go to our website, click on there now, make the pledge to spend $20 a week. But I know that as we say that, there are black people right now who are hearing it and are suffering cognitive dissonance when they hear us say support black folk. Cognitive dissonance actually irritates physically. People you can feel it. I just can't do this. I just can't. It hurts. And so that's part of the emotional struggle that we have to wage at the same time.
Yes, Brother Bob, great information. Brother Bob, important question, and I'd like to get your take on this. For us in South Louisiana, it's culture, all about culture. And importantly, KJCB 770 AM plays a very important role in a lot of the culture information that we get out to our community. For instance, the radio station put on one of the largest, I would have to say, best Black History celebrations every year. And I like to think it's because of the radio station and the community feeling that people have built around the radio station. So with that, I'd like to ask the question, how important does the local radio stations such as KJCB play as it relates to artists, local artists, because we have a lot of mix of different type of music. Zydeco is pretty big down here. We have a lot of rhythm and blues, or we call Southern Soul Swing. How important does it play with the demise of black radio that the artists, do you feel artists will suffer if we don't have any black radio station to start a local artist out? Brother.
Artists, not only do black artists suffer, the black performer suffers, the black restaurant club owner suffers, the black independent concert promoter suffers, the black independent record label suffers, the black independent record store suffers, the black entertainment industry suffers. I've done a documentary film on black radio, and it's called Say It Loud, radio giving voice to black America. And in the film, I asked people who have been very active pioneers and people in the entertainment industry, record promoters, independent store owners. We asked them, how important is black radio? Brother said, if it had not been for black radio, there are any number of artists who never would have had a career, who have gone on to be superstars. Isaac Hayes, had it not been for black radio, you never would have heard of Isaac Hayes. Isaac Hayes' first record was 9 minutes long, and it was By the Time I Get to Phoenix. You remember that? It was 9 minutes long in an era where to be played on the radio, it had to be 3 minutes. He had this strong black male voice, this baritone bass voice of Isaac Hayes. There was not a radio station, not a white radio station was going to play that record. They wouldn't play a record that was 9 minutes long. They wouldn't play a record with a black voice with that southern accent that Isaac Hayes had. They wouldn't play, Isaac Hayes never had a chance of getting that record played. The independent black record promoters who took that record to black radio stations, and we had never heard of Isaac Hayes. I was in music radio at the time. We had never heard of Isaac Hayes, just like, no, he was brand new. Took that record to him. The independent record promoters brought that record around. And the independent record promoters said, I want you to play this record for me. They didn't say play it for Isaac Hayes. Nobody knew Isaac Hayes. But the independent record promoter is the person who had the relationship with the radio stations. The fact that the radio station was there created a job as called independent record promoter. The independent promoter came. They brought the record around. They said, play this record for me and play it for Al Bell. Now, we knew Al Bell at Stax Records. And they said, do this. Nobody mentioned Isaac Hayes' name. And so black radio stations broke their policy of 3-minute records, because when black radio heard it, and they heard him talk, and they heard that southern sound, and that's at a time when soul was really prominent, and black radio could hear the soul career. And without black radio, there are a number of artists who currently don't have a career. There are people whose names you never heard of now because they can't get their music played. There might be another. There might be another Gladys Knight. You know, there might be another. I believe that somewhere in the black community, there's 3 or 4 black women who can keep their clothes on and sing like Gladys and Aretha and Dionne Warwick. So I don't believe they were the only ones who could keep their clothes on and sing. I believe that there are some other black women right now who can sing like Mahalia Jackson, keep their clothes on, stand in front of the mic and sing, but you'll never hear about them. The only ones you hear about are the people who take their clothes off, shake their thighs all over the stage, slide all up and down, make ridiculous, sing songs with ridiculous lyrics, objectify them, present themselves as a sex object. They have to do that because there's no black radio. There's not any place where you can take the music. There's black radio stations that are being programmed. Black folk who own 20 stations and 40 stations, and there's still any who do that thing. There's at least one. Radio 1 still owns a lot of radio stations, but there's one person programming the music on all of those stations, and they only play the music that the record industry sends them, because they don't have to worry. See, the record industry doesn't have to worry. If they sing a new Beyonce song and a new song by another artist that you don't know who's got a great voice, the record industry doesn't have to worry. The other artist is not going to get played. Only the people that they approve of are going to get played. So the absence of black radio not only threatens the survival and existence of artists, the absence of black radio threatens the survival of everybody involved in the black entertainment industry. Since there's no longer a black radio playing new music, then the local black record store in your city, you know, what local black record store is there in Louisiana? Because it used to be a brother in Louisiana named Eddie Three-Way, who was powerhouse selling records. They called him Eddie Three-Way because he sold records 3 ways. He had a record store, he had a TV show, and he had a little truck that drove around the neighborhood selling records like the Ice Cream Man. And Eddie Three-Way was a major outlet for music. So if you had a record label and you can't get your record played yet all over the country, you can take it to Eddie Three-Way, and he'll play it in Louisiana. He'll play it in New Orleans. You can take it to Ted Hudson, and he would play it in St. Louis. Donnie Simpson, he would play it in Chicago. You could get your record played. And there were independent record stores who would sell the record. But now that there's no radio station in those cities, nobody playing new music in those cities, you can't get your record played. The record store has no product to sell, and it goes on and it goes on and on. Black radio is essential to the survival of black artists and the black entertainment industry, just like black radio is essential to the survival and stabilization of the black community.
Yes, we have a caller. Let's see if we can take this call.
KJCB family, this has been a very powerful hour of dynamic information, and not only is black radio important to the entertainment industry, it's also important in disseminating our historical information, and I'll give a point in a minute. The only other thing I wanted to add to Brother Bob Law's information about the economics, if our community, if members of the community are already giving $20, I think we should double that pledge and pledge 40. So that's a wonderful thing to be doing, and it will empower the community. What I wanted to say about our historical information, today is the April 27th, is the 130th anniversary of the birth of one of the most powerful minds that the African community has ever produced. And most people have not even heard about him, and that's our brother Herbert Henry Harrison. He was a dynamic figure in our history, and as we continue to, well, I'd like Brother Bob Law to maybe mention something about him, and but just to add to what he said, the fact that if we do not present our own history and our own historical figures, the next generation will never know about them. So black media is very, very important, both in economics, in history, in education. It's just something that we definitely need. And this has been a very powerful hour. I'm really enjoying the show and getting a lot of information from the show. We appreciate you, and we say asante sana.
I thank you very much. Let me just say this real quick. When we say spend $20, that's a minimum of $20. If you can spend 40, spend 40. If you can spend 60, spend 60. But we're saying make a commitment to spend at least $20 a week in a black-owned business. And the sister's correct about the value of the information. But here is the point. In order for us to be able to continue to disseminate the information, talk about our history, talk about our culture, pass along cultural legacies. In order to be able to do that, the radio station has to exist. And so in order to be able to make the statement that she just made, talk about Herbert Harris, 770 has to be here. KJCB has to be here. And in order for KJCB to be here, it has to prosper. And so the economic part of it is essential. One of the things that we have done is we have looked at media, which is how the discussion about alternate media comes up. We think in terms of just getting out the information. It's so important that our people have the information. But there's no point in putting out the information if people are not going to act on the information. There's no point in putting the stuff out and just so that we can say the word is out. Now that the word is out, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do about it? One of the things I used to talk about on Night Talk was the word therefore. Therefore, we've got all this information. Therefore, what? What's the therefore? We have all this information. We know how important it is that KJCB survive and prosper. Therefore, what? Therefore, we're going to redirect our dollars. Therefore, we're going to make demands on the places where we currently spend and put push those businesses to spend money with KJCB. See, there has to be a therefore. We want to be able to talk to our community. We love this radio station. We love this opportunity to talk and get out information. Therefore, that's what we have to come up with. We love this information. Therefore, we're going to demand that the people with the corporations, the businesses in this community start spending money to keep this radio station alive. Therefore, we're going to the major corporations, and we're going to exercise our leverage as consumers to see to it that if they want to continue to receive our money, they've got to spend money back in our community on our own terms. There's got to be a therefore. The radio station has to say there's this national campaign building. There are radio stations coming together around this Black Spending Power campaign. Therefore, I'm going to hook up with them. I'm going to make sure that I get their information out on my station on a regular basis. See, there's got to be a therefore. We have all this information, all of this awareness. We are spending, as I say, we are spending over $1 trillion a year. At the same time, black unemployment is still the highest. You know, we have the highest unemployment in the country of any ethnic group. We have the highest consumer debt. We have the lowest median family income. We have the highest unemployment. Well, since we're spending so much money, we might want to say, therefore, the people that we are spending our money with locally, you have to start to hire some black people locally, right here, right now. You want to continue to operate your business in the black community, you have to begin to hire some black people, hire some young black people. Let's put a dent in our unemployment numbers based on how much money we spend. I see that we are out of time, you know. So, but there's a last thing. If we have a minute for the last thing, go to the website, Buy Black All Year Long, buyblackallyearlong.com, and pledge to spend $20 a week, at least $20 a week. You could spend more if you can, but pledge to spend $20 a week in a black-owned business. Let's begin the campaign that calls on black people to take control of our own spending and start to deliberately and strategically our dollars back into the black community.
Yes, you've been listening to a powerful conversation with Brother Bob Law, radio entrepreneur, media activist, longtime talk show host from the New York City area. And Brother Bob, I want to thank you so much for gracing the South Louisiana audience, and hopefully we could get you hooked up with our general manager, Sister Janelle Shagwell. We could get you down here in Louisiana, and we could have some seminars and kick it and talk about the issues with black media. I definitely appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, and we're going to be running out of here because we got on deck Big Sam Zydeco, and, you know, I've been taking this time, them seconds add up, and one day I might not have those seconds left with Big Sam. No, but the brother has a powerful Zydeco show, and hopefully people listening on the World Wide Web could get some, who are listening out of the New York area could listen to some good Zydeco played by Big Sam. Thank you so much.